Hollywood has always been obsessed with the perfect face. In an industry where youth equals opportunity, aging is not just a natural process, it's a professional risk. As cameras become sharper, social media more unforgiving, and beauty standards more extreme, the pressure to look younger, slimmer, and more sculpting has never been greater. But what happens when a cosmetic trend celebrated as a shortcut to beauty quietly pushes faces closer to premature aging? Why does a procedure marketed as youth-enhancing leave so many stars looking older than their actual age? What happens when Hollywood chases a trend that comes with no real way back? Is this simply a matter of personal choice, or the result of an industry terrified of irrelevance? And if today's beauty is purchased at the expense of tomorrow's face, is that trade-off truly worth it? In recent years, buccal fat removal, a procedure designed to slim the cheeks and sharpen facial angles, has become a defining symbol of modern Hollywood aesthetics. The promise is a high-fashioned, sculpted look. The reality, according to many aesthetic specialists, is far more permanent. Once that cheek fat is removed, it does not return. What looks trendy and refined at 25 can appear hollow, gaunt, and prematurely aged by 35. And that raises a deeper question. Who really benefits from this trend, and who ultimately pays the price? When Leah Michelle rose to fame in 2009 as Rachel Berry on Glee, her face became part of her appeal. She had what industry insiders often call a baby face, rounded cheeks, natural fullness, and a youthful softness that made her believable as a high school character well into her 20s. That fullness wasn't just cosmetic. It helped her project warmth, emotion, and relatability on camera. What happens when the very features that once defined a star's identity begin to disappear? Around 2016, subtle changes in Michelle's facial structure started to draw attention. By 2018, red carpet appearances sparked widespread speculation. The once soft contours of her cheeks appeared noticeably hollowed, creating a sharper, more angular look. Was this simply natural aging, or something more deliberate? According to several aesthetic professionals, the pattern of mid-face concavity seen in Michelle's later photos is consistent with what's often observed after buccal fat removal, though Michelle herself has never confirmed undergoing the procedure. Experts point out that this specific type of hollowing beneath the cheekbones rarely appears so suddenly through weight loss or aging alone. Why does the mid-face matter so much? Because it plays a crucial role in how youth is visually perceived on camera. When that volume disappears too early, the face can read as more mature, sometimes significantly so. The consequences go beyond appearance. Casting directors have noted that Michelle's sharper look subtly shifted how she's perceived professionally. She didn't just look different, she appeared older than her actual age. In Hollywood terms, that can quietly trigger a casting age shift, narrowing the range of roles available. Did this transformation help her transition back to Broadway, where stronger facial definition reads better under stage lighting? Possibly. But what works from a distance on stage can appear harsh in close-up, high-definition film.
Michelle's case highlights a recurring pattern. The issue isn't that she looks bad. She doesn't. The issue is that she no longer looks like the version of herself audiences first connected with. And once that youthful facial volume is gone, the question remains, was the trade-off worth what it cost in the long run? If Leah Michelle's transformation quietly reshaped her career image, Bella Hadid's evolution did something far more unsettling. It was openly rewarded. In the fashion world, where extremes are currency, her changing face didn't trigger concern so much as admiration. When Bella first entered modeling in the mid-2010s, her beauty was striking yet balanced, with soft cheeks that complemented her bone structure. But when did softness stop being enough? Between 2016 and 2018, her facial appearance shifted dramatically. The cheeks appeared noticeably hollowed, the midface more concave, and her features far sharper than before. The change didn't feel gradual, it felt sudden. Was this simply weight loss or expert contouring, or something more permanent? Many fashion photographers and aesthetic specialists have pointed out that this level of mid-face hollowing is uncommon in someone so young, without surgical intervention,
often citing buccal fat removal as a likely explanation, though Bella has never confirmed it. What makes her case distinctive is how the industry responded. As her face became more angular and severe, her career soared. High fashion houses embraced the sculpted look, rewarding a face that photographs powerfully on runways and in editorials. But does what looks striking under harsh runway lights translate well in real life? And how does a face like this age once natural volume is gone? Industry insiders note that while the hollowed aesthetic elevated Bella's high fashion status, it quietly reduced her versatility. Commercial campaigns favor warmth and relatability, qualities extreme facial hollowing often removes. One editor described the result as from model to mannequin, visually arresting but emotionally distant. Bella's influence reaches far beyond her own career. As one of the most photographed faces in the world, she became a reference image, the kind many surgeons privately dread. A face optimized for Instagram angles, not long-term aging. And that leaves a lingering question. When a trend is professionally rewarded but biologically unforgiving, who is truly winning in the end? Unlike many celebrities who respond to cosmetic surgery rumors with silence or denial, Chrissy Teigen chose a different path. She told the truth. In an industry built on deflection, her openness about buccal fat removal made her an outlier. But does transparency actually soften the consequences when the procedure itself is permanent? For years, Teigen's face was instantly recognizable. Her naturally full cheeks and expressive features helped convey warmth, humor, and emotional range, qualities that translated effortlessly on television and across social media. That fullness wasn't a flaw to be corrected. It was part of her appeal. So what motivates someone with an already successful image to alter it? In late 2021, Teigen publicly confirmed that she had undergone buccal fat removal, even pointing out the areas that had changed. The shift was impossible to miss. Following the procedure, her face appeared sharper, with visible hollowing beneath the cheekbones and deeper shadows across the midface. Fans noticed almost immediately. Was this a subtle refinement meant to enhance definition, or a more fundamental change in facial structure? According to aesthetic professionals, the specific pattern of hollowing seen in her later appearances is consistent with surgical fat removal rather than natural aging or weight fluctuation. What makes Teigen's case particularly revealing is what came next. In subsequent interviews, she admitted feeling uncertain about the decision, suggesting she may not have needed the procedure at all. That hesitation raises an uncomfortable question. How do you process regret when there's no true way back? Because of her constant online presence, Teigen provides one of the clearest before and after records of buccal fat removal available in the public eye. The evidence is unusually complete. There is no scandal here, no collapse. Her career continues. The face still works. But one thing is permanently gone: the option to undo the choice. And when beauty trends inevitably change, that permanence becomes the part no one can edit out. Few artists have mastered reinvention the way Madonna has. For decades, she reshaped her image with each era, turning transformation into an art form. But at a certain point, the reinvention stopped being conceptual and became physical, and the reaction shifted from fascination to unease. When did the focus move from her music to her face? For much of her career, Madonna aged in a way many found remarkable. Well into her 40s and 50s, her cheeks retained natural volume, lending softness to a face already defined by strong bone structure. That fullness played a quiet but crucial role in maintaining a youthful balance. In recent years, however, that balance appeared to change. Public appearances revealed a noticeably hollowed midface, paired with areas that looked unusually tight or overfilled. Was this simply the result of aging under harsher scrutiny, or evidence of more aggressive intervention? According to aesthetic specialists, Madonna's appearance reflects not a single procedure, but a combination, with buccal fat removal likely contributing to the pronounced concavity beneath the cheekbones. This creates what some experts describe as a compartmentalized face, where different areas seem to age at different speeds. Why does this matter? Because contrast draws attention. Instead of disguising age, it highlights it. The consequences have been cultural as much as cosmetic. Conversations around Madonna's performances increasingly drift toward her appearance. Has the face become a distraction from the work itself? For an artist once celebrated for pushing boundaries through music and identity, that shift is telling. Madonna's case underscores a long-term risk rarely discussed when younger stars consider facial fat removal. Natural cheek volume becomes more valuable, not less, with age. Removing it early can accelerate the very changes one hopes to delay. Reinvention has always been Madonna's strength, but when permanence replaces performance, the question becomes unavoidable. At what point does fighting time make time impossible to ignore? Zoe Kravitz never fit neatly into Hollywood's standard definitions of beauty. Her appeal came from something harder to manufacture, an ethereal balance between sharp bone structure and natural softness. With famous parents and an instantly recognizable look, she entered the industry carrying a face that felt both modern and timeless. That balance, however, would not remain untouched, and when it shifted, many began to ask what had been lost in the process. Early in her career, Kravitz's cheeks held just enough fullness to soften her already prominent cheekbones. The result was a face that felt light, expressive, and emotionally readable on camera. Around 2018 to 2019, that equilibrium began to change. Red carpet appearances revealed a noticeably hollowed midface, with deeper concavity beneath the cheekbones than seen before. Was this simply the natural thinning that comes with age, or something more abrupt? Casting directors and fashion photographers who have followed her career note that the change did not unfold gradually. Instead, it carried a distinct before and after quality. According to aesthetic professionals, this type of hollowing pattern is often associated with buccal fat removal, particularly when it appears suddenly rather than over time. Why does that matter for someone like Zoe Kravitz? Because softness was never a weakness in her look. It was the counterweight that made her angles feel human. As her face became more sculpted, her image shifted closer to a high-fashion ideal. The sharpness photographs well, especially under controlled lighting. But does it translate the same way in motion, dialogue, and close-up performance? Some industry observers argue that the ethereal quality that once set her apart has been muted, replaced by a more standardized editorial aesthetic. Kravitz continues to land major roles and remains a fashion favorite. By most professional measures, she is thriving. Yet her case raises a quieter question that echoes through modern Hollywood. When individuality is traded for trend alignment, is success being refined or slowly flattened? And once a face moves closer to the template, how easy is it to ever move back? For a brief moment in the late 2000s, Megan Fox wasn't just famous, she was a cultural reference point. Her face, unveiled to the world in Transformers, became shorthand for effortless, almost unreal beauty. Symmetry, softness, and sharpness existed in rare balance. Surgeons were handed her photos. Audiences recognized her instantly. So how does someone who already embodied the ideal end up chasing a more extreme version of it? In her early career, Fox's cheeks carried natural volume that softened her strong bone structure. That fullness helped anchor her features, making her beauty feel organic rather than constructed. Over time, however, her appearance began to shift. By the late 2010s, especially around 2019 and 2020, the midface appeared increasingly hollow, with pronounced concavity beneath the cheekbones. The change wasn't sudden, but it was unmistakable. Was this simply aging under relentless scrutiny, or the result of cumulative intervention? According to several Beverly Hills-based aesthetic specialists, Fox's facial evolution appears to reflect more than one procedure. Buccal fat removal is frequently cited as a contributing factor, alongside fillers and other enhancements. The result is a face that looks tighter in some areas and hollow in others, a contrast that draws attention rather than diffuses it. Why does this matter? Because Fox's original appeal relied on cohesion. When balance disappears, recognition follows. The consequences have been cultural as much as visual. Conversations around Fox's public appearances increasingly center on her face instead of her work. Has the image begun to overshadow the talent? For someone whose career has involved multiple reinventions and comebacks, that shift is significant. Megan Fox is still beautiful by any conventional standard. That has never been the question. The deeper issue is how far her face has traveled from the version that once made her iconic. In the pursuit of heightened perfection, something quieter may have slipped away. The sense that this beauty belonged naturally to her, rather than being engineered around her. And once that line is crossed, can the audience ever unsee it? For many viewers, Dove Cameron didn't just appear on screen, she grew up there. As a Disney Channel star, her face became familiar to an entire generation, defined by a heart-shaped softness, full cheeks, and an unmistakably youthful glow. That look wasn't accidental. It was carefully aligned with the image Disney cultivates for its young stars. So when that face changed, the reaction wasn't casual. It was shock. Around 2020 to 2021, fans began noticing a dramatic shift. Cameron's once rounded cheeks appeared sharply hollowed, her mid-face more concave, her features noticeably angular. The transformation felt sudden, not gradual. Was this simply the natural result of weight loss and maturity, or something more deliberate? Entertainment journalists and aesthetic observers pointed out that this kind of hollowing is unusual in someone so young without surgical intervention, often citing buccal fat removal as a likely explanation, though Cameron has never confirmed it. What makes her case particularly striking is timing. The change coincided with her transition away from Disney into more mature acting roles and a darker musical persona. Was the physical transformation part of a larger effort to shed a child star image? Casting professionals note that many former teen stars feel intense pressure to signal adulthood quickly, sometimes overshooting the mark in the process. The consequences were immediate. Fans struggled to recognize her. Social media filled with comments questioning whether she was the same person. While the sharper look aligned with high-fashion aesthetics, it also made Cameron appear significantly older than her actual age. In casting terms, that can quietly trigger a shift. Fewer youthful roles, more mature expectations. Dove Cameron continues to build her post-Disney career, and by industry standards, she remains successful. Yet her transformation highlights a familiar dilemma. When young stars rush to erase their past image, what replaces it isn't always growth. Sometimes it's distance. And once a face is pushed too far into adulthood too quickly, the question lingers: was maturity achieved, or was youth simply removed before its time? Khloe Kardashian's transformation didn't happen behind closed doors. It unfolded in front of millions. Unlike most celebrities, whose early and later faces are separated by years of carefully curated images, Khloe's appearance evolved season by season on reality television. The audience didn't just see the results. In the early years of keeping up with the Kardashians, Khloe's face was defined by natural fullness and strong, distinctive features that set her apart from her sisters. That difference, however, also made her a frequent target of public comparison. Criticism followed her relentlessly. Over time, her appearance began to shift. Around 2018 to 2019, viewers noticed pronounced hollowing beneath her cheekbones, even during periods when her overall weight fluctuated. Was this simply extreme fitness and weight loss, or something more permanent? Aesthetic specialists point out that when cheek hollows remain consistent regardless of body weight, it often suggests surgical fat removal rather than natural change. Buccal fat removal is frequently mentioned in discussions about Khloe's evolving face, though she has never confirmed undergoing the procedure. Why does this distinction matter? Because it reveals how permanent facial decisions can become embedded in a public narrative that never stops replaying. What sets Khloe apart is context. Within the Kardashian family, physical reinvention is normalized, even celebrated. Yet in pursuing a more sculpted, snatched appearance, Khloe gradually lost the facial traits that once differentiated her from her sisters. Instead of standing out, her face moved closer to a shared aesthetic template. Did refinement come at the cost of individuality? The public response has been deeply divided. Some praise her transformation as discipline and glow-up culture perfected. Others see a woman shaped by years of comparison and scrutiny. Khloe's case captures a modern reality. When beauty is constantly documented, judged, and monetized, the pressure to change never truly ends. Her face didn't just evolve, it adapted to survival in the spotlight. But as trends shift and standards change, one question remains unavoidable. When the cameras move on, what version of the face is left behind? Anya Taylor Joy entered Hollywood looking like she belonged to another era. Her face carried an unusual, almost porcelain quality, wide-set eyes, delicate bone structure, and a softness that felt closer to old Hollywood than Instagram culture. That contrast made her instantly recognizable. In a landscape of increasingly similar faces, she stood apart. So why reshape a face that already defied the trend? Early in her rise, Anya's cheeks retained subtle fullness that balanced her naturally sharp features. The volume didn't blunt her angles, it softened them, giving her an expressive, almost storybook presence on screen. Around 2021 to 2022, however, that balance appeared to shift. Public appearances began to show deeper hollows beneath the cheekbones and a noticeably slimmer midface. Was this simply the result of weight loss and maturation, or a deliberate move toward a more high-fashion aesthetic? According to fashion photographers and aesthetic observers, the change did not read as gradual. Instead, it felt stylized, as though the face had been optimized for editorial photography. Buccal fat removal is often mentioned in discussions of her transformation, though nothing has been confirmed. Why does this speculation persist? Because the hollowing pattern appeared suddenly and remained consistent, even as other features changed. The irony is that Anya's original appeal came from her refusal to conform. As her look became more sculpted, she moved closer to the same angular template dominating runways and luxury campaigns. The result? Photographs beautifully under controlled lighting. But does it preserve the emotional softness that once made her performances feel otherworldly? Anya Taylor Joy continues to thrive professionally, securing major roles and fashion endorsements. By every measurable standard, she is winning. Yet her transformation raises a quiet, uncomfortable question. When a face designed to feel timeless is reshaped to feel current, what happens when current moves on? And once classical softness is traded for trend alignment, can it ever truly be restored? For much of her career, Ariana Grande's face was inseparable from her image. The soft cheeks, rounded contours, and unmistakable baby face became a visual signature, reinforcing her youthfulness even as she transitioned from Nickelodeon star to global pop icon. That softness wasn't incidental. It helped balance her petite frame and gave her an ageless quality on camera. So when that face began to change, the reaction was immediate and intense. Around 2022 to 2023, fans noticed a striking shift. Ariana's cheeks appeared noticeably hollowed, her midface slimmer and more angular than ever before. The transformation felt abrupt. Was this simply the result of weight loss, stress, or adulthood finally catching up? Or was something more permanent at play? Aesthetic professionals observing the change have noted that the pattern of hollowing beneath the cheekbones resembles what is often seen after buccal fat removal, though Ariana has never confirmed undergoing any such procedure. What made the shift particularly jarring was contrast. Ariana's face had long read younger than her actual age. Suddenly, it began to read older. Shadows formed where fullness once softened expression. Fans began asking the same question again and again. Why does she look so different? In casting and branding terms, this kind of change can quietly reset perception, not just altering appearance, but the emotional age a face communicates. The timing added another layer. Ariana was entering a new chapter, a different musical era, a more mature public image, and a high-profile role in Wicked. Was the sharper look part of a broader reinvention? Possibly. But what works under theatrical lighting and editorial styling can feel severe in candid, high-definition moments. Ariana Grande remains one of the most successful artists of her generation. Her talent and influence are unquestionable. Yet, her transformation underscores a final, unsettling pattern seen throughout this list. When youthful softness is removed too early, the face doesn't simply grow up, it skips ahead. And once a baby face is gone, no amount of nostalgia can bring it back. Looking across these 10 stories, a pattern begins to emerge. These transformations didn't happen because these stars were reckless or unaware. They happened inside an industry that rewards youth, sharpness, and reinvention, often without acknowledging the long-term cost. Buccal fat removal wasn't sold as destruction. It was sold as refinement. And for a moment, it often worked.
But faces don't exist in moments. They exist in time. What looks sculpted and fashionable at 25 can appear hollow and prematurely aged a decade later. The trend moves on. The standards shift. The algorithms change. Yet the face remains, carrying decisions made under pressure that no longer exists. What's striking is that none of these stars lost their talent. Their careers didn't end overnight. The real loss was quieter, a softness that once allowed faces to age naturally, express emotion fully, and remain flexible across time and roles. Buccal fat removal didn't ruin these faces. The fear of becoming irrelevant did. And that leaves us with questions that go beyond celebrity culture. Are we rewarding beauty that only works in photos, not in life? Are we celebrating individuality, or slowly erasing it? And how much of this pressure is created not by Hollywood alone, but by the audience watching from the other side of the screen?
Now we want to hear from you. Do you see this trend as evolution, or as a mistake Hollywood hasn't fully reckoned with yet? Have beauty standards gone too far, or are they simply reflecting what we demand? Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments below, because this conversation doesn't end here.